I don't know if you want to split up the Klingberg-Wallman pair, and I guess you could split up Bouchard and Kulak, but I don't know if you want to play Ekholm all the minutes right away. And, Darnell Nurse and Stetcher have been really good. Like, the Oilers team defense, it's crazy. As much as there's a focus on their offense, as it should be when you got McDavid and Draisaitl, the Oilers have shut down Vegas and Dallas, the two best teams in the NHL off the rush this year in the regular season. Vegas had 3 goals in that series, and Dallas has 1. Like, they've shut them right down 5-on-5.
So, to what do you attribute that to? Because from the outside, when you look at the Oilers' D-core going to playoffs, it's like, okay, they got McDavid and Draisaitl. We know that. They've got these guys, and they're going to be in any game. But, boy, they're going to make some mistakes. And you watch them in the regular season, and they make some mistakes. Where have they gone? How is everyone so much more consistent right now?
Well, they were really good last year in the playoffs. And I think because it's funny. Connor McDavid averaged 1.68 points per game last year, and everyone's like, oh my God, he was unreal. He's at 1.6 this year, and no one's even talking about it. It's basically the same. It's just they have way more other guys producing, so that helps, so it doesn't look as much. Their power play doesn't get any power plays. It's still 29%, but they've only scored 11 goals because they're barely on the power play. So defensively, they were good last year. Like Evan Bouchard, 3 years in a row, has said, you know what? I'm not nonchalant. I'm not going to go back to puck slow. The guy is one of the best players under pressure with the puck on a stick in the NHL. Like, his small little 6-foot passes that most guys would cringe making, he makes it, and you're kind of like, and he doesn't even look like
he's Caberlet. He has no pulse.
Yeah, it's very weird, but he doesn't have Ekholm, and everybody thought Bouchard would fall off. Bouchard's probably played better, which shows you he doesn't need Ekholm to play well. Brett Kulak's always been a playoff performer. I think the biggest improvement's actually been Darnell Nurse. Darnell Nurse has been very consistent because Nurse doesn't play with Draisaitl McDavid, right? So some people, when they look at just goal for share, they forget that, well, of course, Bouchard's going to have a good goal for share because his offensive numbers are great. Now, he hasn't been on the ice very much for goals against, but if you look at minutes away from McDavid and Draisaitl, which are important, in the Vegas and Dallas series, Darnell Nurse is 8 goals for, 5 goals against, and he's played 177 minutes away from those two, right? Bouchard plays a lot of minutes, but he plays more with McDavid and Draisaitl, as he should, because he's the best offensive defenseman they have. So I think Nurse's play has really been a big addition because he plays the most minutes, guys, right? The guys who are on the ice the most have to play well.
You're watching and listening to Jason Gregor, host of the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440 in Edmonton. We are covering the Edmonton Oilers, 1 game away from a Stanley Cup final, a return. Just one more thing on Nurse. Is it less is more here without those minutes with Draisaitl and McDavid? There's a less tendency to try to convince people you're worth over $9 million a year?
Yeah, the biggest thing for Darnell is that because he's such a good athlete and he's a really good skater, like there's not many defensemen that can, if you look like you've got a step on him wide, his length and speed, he's able to recover. But where it gets into trouble sometimes is in the D zone, he's rushing at guys. And he's not doing that right now. He's letting the play come to him, and very few guys can beat him off the rush just because he's such a mobile defenseman and he's so long. So you're right, Nick. He is letting the play come to him. And of course he'll make mistakes sometimes, but he's making way more good plays than wrong. And when Stetcher came in, they played very well in the regular season. And Stetcher's I call an overachiever. That guy gives you everything he has. He's a smaller defenseman. He bucks the trend of what should be successful in today's NHL playoffs because he's a small defenseman who doesn't bring a lot of offense. It's almost unheard of. Like, if you look at all the small defensemen, they're usually dynamos offensively. Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, others. Like, those guys are elite because they're offensive. There's very few small guys who play in the playoffs who don't bring you offense, but that's what Stetcher's done, and he's done a great job since taking over for Emberson. And him and Nurse they have good chemistry, but Nurse plays a lot with Kulak, and Paul Coffey rotates his guys around a lot. Like, they played basically 5 D-men for the first 7-8 games of the playoffs, and then they put Stetcher in for Emberson, and they made more consistent pairs. But for Nurse, it's all about stay within your game and let your athleticism show and be strong and physical, and he's been a lot better in front of the net as well.
So, Jason, where are we at on Stu Skinner? You know what? One of the things, I was looking at some numbers today, one of the things the Oilers have done really well is, everyone's talking about Dallas missing the net a lot. over the course of this series, 59% of their attempts have either been blocked or missed the net, which to me means they're packing the middle and making it tough to get pucks through. I don't know if that contributes to Skinner's success, or what do you make of it? Is this always who you kind of thought he was?
Well, Stu Skinner he's a great example of when you have a bad game in a small sample, it really skews the overall numbers. Like Stu Skinner last year and this year had 5 games where he allowed a total of 25 goals against. He had a .798 save percentage in those games, right? And a lot of people get focused on that. And it's bad, don't get me wrong. But in his other 27 playoff games the last 2 years, he's got a 2.09 goals against and a .918 save percentage. Like pretty good. Like you look at his conference finals in 2 years, he's like top 3 all time. He's got a .929 and a .185 goals against the Dallas Stars, who are a really good team. So Skinner, every goalie has a weakness, Kevin Woodley tells me. And Skinner's weakness is off the rush. So what have the Oilers done? They don't give up chances off the rush.
Right.
Now Dallas in the second period of game 3 and the first period of game 4 were all over the Oilers. And Skinner was the best player on the ice. And he kept him in the game. Now, in the second and third period last night, Edmonton didn't give up any chances. Skinner just had to be a regular goalie and make decent saves. So Skinner's capable of it, but Edmonton's, I don't believe, was ever built for Stu Skinner to be the savior. He makes $2.6 million. He's not paid to be the savior. He just has to be solid. And he's been solid in more games than he hasn't, but when he's had a bad game, it's been so bad that it skews his overall numbers. And that's what people look at sometimes rather than digging deeper and going on a game-by-game basis.
Jason, in terms of what you saw out of the Dallas Stars the last 2 games, no question that coming into the series, for good reason, the talk was about Rantanen and what he was able to do coming into the series. But outside of that, I look at that roster, and it's a good roster, and there's some really good hockey players. But I'm searching for the natural game breaker out of the Dallas Stars. But what have you seen out of the 2 specific games in Edmonton from them?
Well, when I look at Dallas in this series, they've been the exact team that we saw in the first 2 rounds. The only difference is their power play isn't saving them. I watched that Colorado series, and 5-on-5, they got crushed. But they didn't score, Colorado didn't score. Ottinger was pretty good in a few games. And then their power play saved them. Like their power play was 36%, I think, in that series. Against Winnipeg, they only had 8 goals 5-on-5. So it's funny because they were a good scoring team in the regular season. But in the playoffs, Jamie Benn's done nothing 5-on-5. Matt Duchene's done nothing. They don't have a goal, right? Wyatt Johnson has 2. Jason Robertson has 1. In this series alone, they've scored 3 goals 5-on-5. Seguin has 2 and Robertson has 1. That's it. Like they're on milk cartons across the state of Texas right now offensively, and they're not as quick as Edmonton.